going on, guys? I wanted to bring this new tutorial to you guys of actually showing you how to build and taking you through building these floating buttons. This is a really cool, simple interaction here. So when you click on this, the label essentially changes from the placeholder and shrinks down. Here's obviously the example. This tells you how this works. But we're going to take this and have this working in Elementor. It's a really cool, simple interaction, and I think it's possible to do relatively quickly, so I'm going to have you actually go through and do it with me. We are going to be using AI to do this, and I'll teach you how I also use ChatGPT when I develop to do very simple things like this. So if we jump into it, load up Elementor here. Wanted to stop this really quick and actually give you guys a tiny little history lesson on where these floating labels came from. They originated in 2013 from a designer on iOS. You can find his information here, Matt. He does some great videos. It's crazy that, one person like him created this small little interaction, like UX element, this design element. As you can see, creator of the float label input pattern. Awesome videos. Just figured I'd give him a shout out because he figured out this design thing. So go check him out. Stick around for the rest of the video. So we're actually going to need to look at the front end first. So we have this form. Let's just center it really quickly. So now we have it centered into the container. Now we have lines, or we have placeholders already. So we have labels and then we have placeholders. What we need to figure out first is, are we going to be using the label or the placeholder to do this? I'm actually going to want to look at the front end. I think we'll want to use the label and then just actually have no placeholder. That way we can move it around and it's easier. So what I'm going to do, just instinctively, I don't know why my Elementor hasn't been updated in a bit, so that is possibly why stuff is all out of whack like this. What we're going to do is delete all the placeholders for now. I'm simply going to publish this, and then I'm going to preview this page really quick and go into inspect element and just look through the code and to figure out what the active states are, because these should have active states. Most fields have active states on them, so we're going to want to tap in to the active state and tell JavaScript to use that active state. Usually it's a class that gets added to then transition or transform the field and move it. So excuse me when I said before, typically it's a class. It's not typically a class, but it's in CSS. Usually it is the focus mode. So when you're clicked into an input, there's a focus mode, which you can tap into if you've done pseudo elements before. Let's just do this on the first section first. So what I'm going to do is scroll back down to said section. I'm going to inspect element. We want to specifically target this label here. So what we're going to do is do selector Elementor field type text. And then you could do this globally for all your fields, but we're just going to, if you have other forms on your page, you're always going to want to use selector and then the class, because selector will choose the element you are actually working on. Selector Elementor field type text. Actually, what we'll want to do, yes, Elementor field type text, and then the label. So label, transform, translate 20 pixels, let's say. And why is that? There we go. So we're going to do 0 and then comma 20 pixels, because I was doing the X. So there we go. Now we can see where it is kind of. Let's go 30, maybe 25. That seems about right. We'll move that over 10. We'll probably want to bump this down a couple pixels. So there we go. So now we have that in the center of the field really quick. Then what we're gonna do here is we're gonna duplicate this. I'm just gonna paste again, and then we're gonna do focus mode. So when this is focused, let's say, so that focus mode didn't work. I had an extra parenthesis in there, but the reason that it also might not be working is that, oops, oh, that's the old tutorial. This doesn't get the attachment of focus. I assume the input does. So what we're gonna do, what I'm gonna do really quick is, because my first method didn't work, which I thought was gonna be very simple, I'm probably just missing something very small, and I could go Google search this and figure out what the focus mode is. But what I'm gonna do is actually just type in a ChatGPT, give it background first on exactly the project and software I'm working on, maybe give it a screenshot of the HTML, give it some of the classes that we're working on, and say what CSS I have already written. So in here, I'm gonna mention I moved the label of the do that with CSS. Now I have a theory that we're actually not gonna be able to do it with CSS because the input is not, higher in the hierarchy in the CSS. So because of this, it is lower here. We're gonna have to probably use some Java to actually move the thing that's higher than it in the HTML structure when this gets a field. It's different if this whole column gets focus mode, I could do it. So like, for example, I could make some hover interaction. So if I actually go into here and we do hover, you can see that it'll actually move. So that's another way that you could do it. If I was to do that, I would just transition it. So I would keep this 10, move this to 0, let's say. Actually, I think a cool thing would be, let's move it 10 up so it's there. We'd give it a background of white. So it kind of cuts out right there. And then we're gonna give it a transition. All 0.3 seconds, ease in. Boom. So now we have that. So that's an easy way to do it. You kind of cut out the line there. If I really wanted to get extra with it, I would want to give a little bit more space around the name. And so what I would actually do, copy this, and then do hover label, do before, and then what I would do is content, boom, background. I always like to debit red first, position, absolute, top 0, left 0. Let's give it a width of calc 100% plus. Let's do 10 pixels and a height of the same thing. Calc 100% plus 10 pixels. Now, aren't seeing this for some reason. It's also a little slow, so we'd want to make that maybe 0.2. We'll also want that to transition back in. So now we have a double transition, and now we're still working on this before pseudo background, and it is not working. Oh, there we go. So z index -1. And then what we would actually do is move this back 5 pixels because we made it an extra 10 in height, and we move it back another 5. And then what we'll do here is change this background to white. You can't tell it's there now, but when you do this, there is a little white space, so it's just a little bit cleaner. Personally, I would move that up a little bit more, so maybe 8 pixels. Yeah, boom. There we go. So now we have a little label that moves. Really simple, nice interaction. Again, I still don't want it to work like this. I don't want it to work on hover, although that is kind of cool. I want it to actually move when you click on it. Now, you can, obviously this interaction and the one that we're hopefully going to build, I could change a bunch of different stuff. I could change the font size here. Oh no, not on the before pseudo element. What I would do, let's say font size here at 12 pixels. So we shrink it. As you see, that messes with the whole size of this. We could actually bring this whole thing out of, the CSS position absolute. So that'll actually bring it out of the whole HTML structure, so that it's separate now from it, and now we don't have to worry about like shrinking anything. We will obviously have to change the absolute positioning. I will still use translate. Let's do this though. What we'll need to do is do top 0 pixels, left 0 pixels. So now it's setting up, and then let's do 0 and then 0. So now it's at the top left. We will move it down 10, left 20. Perfect. And then what we'll do on hover is keep it left 20 and then move it up, say -5. So there's an example of it getting really small. And then now we changed it. We took it out of the DOM, or the we didn't take it out of the DOM, but we took it out of the HTML structure, so it's not relative. So if we change the size of it or anything related to that, it doesn't mess with the overall size of this. It's just a very nice, simple, clean interaction. One thing to note though is this is a hover effect. So hover effects don't work on mobile. Hence why we're going to want to get the focus mode working and use ChatGPT for that. So let's jump back over to there and finish this prompt. How do we do that with CSS? Preferably or JavaScript. Wow, can't spell. It's late at night, so preferably or JavaScript. Now let's jump down. Let's go to this. Let's give it an idea of the field that we're working on. So I'm just going to have this label highlighted. I'm going to take a screenshot of my screen and then toss it in here and then have this prompt. Let's see what it spits out to me. Again, preferably I would like to do this in CSS. That would be as lightweight as possible. I think there is a way to do it with CSS, and it knows immediately that we're trying to do the floating label. So that's what we're building here. So position, relative, element of form, focus within. But we can use what it is doing. So let's see what it. Just going to use ChatGPT's. This is a good instance of where what they pasted didn't work as easily. So what we're going to do is go back to the CSS we had written, see if we can apply some of those principles. So what I want to do is remove this hover animation, remove this before, remove this field text, and we use focus within, and then we do label. There we go. So now we have it working. So what this is doing now is that when this CSS field, so that is this category here, so when you're looking in the CSS or when you're looking in the HTML for things like this and you want to work on a cool little feature or interaction like this, something to note, we have the form right here. We have the form HTML. Inside of that div, we have a bunch of other divs, which these are all the inputs and or the button. So what we want to see here is that we can see that this is a text field, so it has a field type text class on it. Now we have two other different ones that we want to target as well, but what the CSS did that we just wrote with the focus within looks for this main parent field, and then there's two things inside of, sorry, I just updated. It looks for the two things inside of that. So there's two things inside of the name field, and that is the label and actually the input box. So it's looking for, when we put focus within on, the parent text field, it'll look for focus on anything inside of that container, and the input is going to get the focus, so it'll know to trigger then to move the label. So what we're going to do here, now we know it works like that. So how about we just do this for all of those fields and target the labels. So what we're going to do is just do a comma here, and then we will copy and paste the same thing, move that, but these all aren't. Let's see if they all have Elementor field group. Yeah, so that does look like what we want to target. So we can actually just do this one time, Elementor field group. We can actually delete this second rendition of it, and then you should see here that these all get highlighted red. Obviously, red is not the interaction that we want to take. So let's go back to what we were doing before with the translate and transform. We're actually going to want to make this all global now. So let's do Elementor field group. Boom. Now we've moved all of those at once. They're all taken out of the HTML structure, or they're still within the HTML structure, but they're all not relative in the box and they don't have their own spacing. Now what we want to do is actually go like this. We're going to want to copy this transform, or you could just do it as well without this. We want to keep this and maybe make it -5. So boom, -5. Isn't that beautiful? Now this works also because we have a simple transition, 0.2. Maybe make it a little bit faster, 0.18. We have that ease in. Let's give this padding of 20 pixels. Now watch what happens when it grows weirdly like that. So again, this is a good instance of where, let's do this padding, 5 pixels, background white, and then change this background to white as well. So now you see it gets moved up. Again, this is down here a little bit further, so we even might want to bump this translate up to -10. We have a simple little floating interaction on our Elementor forms. Again, very simple, very light use of ChatGPT actually within this. It just helped me with the focus within. That was actually some CSS I didn't know. Off the top of my head, I knew there was a focus label, but now we are using the focus within CSS on the parent container of each field. We have it set globally here. Again, you could do it manually if you want. Again, I would probably bump this up a little bit more to make it, yeah, there we go. We'd want to space this out a little bit. So what we would do is add some gaps. See if it's good there. So this is a fun little animation, something to spice up your website, those floating labels. This code will be on my website. It'll be in the description as well. I appreciate you guys watching, and stick around for some more. Use SiteGround religiously. We have 100+ client sites on SiteGround. It just helps us out if you use our affiliate link. So if you're looking for some hosting, holidays are coming, depending on when you watch this, and there's usually deals anyway, even if it's not a holiday. So go and get yourself some sick hosting. Their support's amazing. More fun interaction stuff to come with WordPress and Elementor. Peace.